Hi everybody, it's Alexis and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I like to craft and I like to share all of my creations with all of you. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I knit this cute little summer mesh top. So before we get into things, I just wanted to tell you how this video would be broken down. So the first part, I just show you guys how to knit the basic mesh pattern. It's just a 4-row repeat and you can make it however long you want. If you don't want to make this top, maybe you wanted to make like a skirt or a mesh market bag, then you can just watch the beginning, learn the mesh pattern, and that'll be that. But if you are interested in making this top exactly how I make it, this will be a tutorial. So after I show you the basic mesh pattern, I'll just kind of have you guys follow along with me. I'll tell you like how long I make my panels. I'll show you guys how I decrease my armpit area, and I'll show you how I knit the sleeves in the round using German short rows. So now that we've got that out of the way, I did use Yarn Bee yarn. It's Yarntopia in the color Hummus. And this is a number 2 weight yarn, so it's fine / sport weight. And I used my 3.25 millimeter knitting needles. And I just had a couple different cable lengths that I switched out for various parts of this. It is worked in 3 panels, so I have the front, the back is all one part, and then I knit the sleeves onto the body. I picked up the stitches. So I will say that this is definitely easier if you know the basics of like knitting, purling, and casting on and picking up stitches. So I would say that this is definitely like good for an intermediate to advanced beginner, because I definitely think it's doable. You just need to be comfortable with some basic stitches. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to tell you guys. So I'm really happy for you to see this video. It took me 2.5 months to make this. And yeah, let's get into the video. Okay, so I casted on 45 stitches. So you're supposed to cast on a multiple of 3 plus 1 plus 2 selvage stitches. So I casted on 45. So the first row, we're just going to be knitting all the way across. So you just stick your needle in from front to back, yarn over the needle, and pull it through. And that is a knit stitch. Front to back, yarn over, pull through. I feel like I sound like I'm giving crochet instructions when I knit. And one more time, front to back, yarn over, and pull that through. So you're just going to do this all the way down for the first row. Okay, once you've made it to the end, you can turn your work around. And for the second row, we're just gonna be purling all the way back. So I'm gonna take my yarn and flip it over to this side. And to purl, instead of going from back to front, you're gonna go from the front to the back. And you're just going to, sorry, I'm like holding my yarn. You're going to take your yarn over, and pull it back out. So again, you're coming from the front to the back, yarn over, and pull it out. One more time. And that is a purl. And we're just going to do that all the way down for the second row. Okay, now that we've done our purl row, this is what it should look like. And here is when we start switching it up a little bit. So first, we're going to knit a stitch. Then we're going to slip this stitch knitwise onto this needle. So that means we're just going to go from front to back. I guess I say front to back because this is like the knit, this is the front. Anyways, I know I switch it up all the time. But just go like you're about to knit the stitch and just pull it over and leave it there. Then knit the next stitch. Now we're gonna go back to this stitch and pull it all the way over. And we're just gonna leave that there like that. Now we're gonna yarn over twice. So we're just gonna take our strand, yarn over and yarn over. Then we're going to take the next 2 stitches, go under and fold them over here. Then we're going to knit the next stitch. Then we're going to go back to these 2 stitches and pull them over. And you can see that kind of made this gap right here. So we're going to keep repeating that from right here. So yarn over twice, so you have 2 loops. Come over here and pick up the next 2 stitches. It can be a little tight, but don't worry. Okay, just bring them over, knit the next stitch, then come and bring these 2 stitches back over the top. And we're just going to keep repeating that all the way down. And once we have 3 stitches left, I'll show you guys how to finish the row off. Okay, so I'm almost at the end, and this is what mine is looking like. So we have 3 stitches left. So what we're going to do is do our yarn over twice. And we're just going to knit these 2 stitches together. And now we have decreased them, and you're just going to, knit your last stitch better than I did. Okay. Whew. Now it is time for the next row. Okay, I'm going to turn my work, and we're going to purl the first stitch because this is our selvage. So it's always either just going to be a purl or a knit stitch. Okay, then we're going to purl twice. So purl 1 stitch, purl the next stitch. Then we're going to take this over and we're going to knit the next stitch. Then we're going to purl twice, and this will be the pattern all the way down, is purl, purl, knit. So purl this stitch, purl the next stitch, bring your yarn over in front and knit this stitch. Then we bring it back around, purl, purl, and knit. And you'll just keep doing that all the way down. So for this one, when I'm holding it up to my body is the panel that will be on my left side. So the way that I'm doing it, let me get all this situated, is when I'm on the row, I've done my knit and purl row. So next is the row where I will do the 2 yarn overs. I cast off until the 4th stitch. Well, I cast off to the 4th stitch. So obviously I will show you what I mean. So to cast off, you're just going to start by knitting 2. Then you'll take the outer one and you'll bring it over the other stitch. Then you'll knit 1 more, bring it over, and then we're going to knit this one right next to this middle line. We're going to knit and decrease this one as well. And now that we're here, we can treat this like the beginning of our row. So this is like our first knit stitch. So what we'll do is slip this one, knit this one, and slip this one over, just like the regular beginning. And that is what I have been doing to decrease on this side. And then I'll just finish the row. And I do everything completely normal until I'm back to the row where I yarn over again, and then I decrease. So it's kind of decrease, regular, decrease, regular. Okay, it's been a couple days. I've been really busy with things around the house and visiting some family, but I just wanted to give a little update. I've done about 12 repeats of the 4-row pattern. And I just finished the end part, and I'm about to start the knit purl section. So this is going to be where I decrease. So to do the opposite of our other panel, I'm going to knit this way, and then on the back side when it's just purling, I'm going to decrease that way. And I'm going to decrease until I just have this 1 stitch right in front, like it would be right here to be my like selvage. So I'll just decrease it the same way I did the other way. I'm just changing the way I decrease so that the decrease is going in towards the middle. So I will be decreasing on the purl row to make this panel. So I left off, I have my 2 front pieces done, and I was working on the back. Just trust that they're done, they're jumbled. I was working on the back, and then the first one I made, the measurements were wrong. So I started this one, and then I broke my needles. So I bought new needles, and then all of my yarn got jumbled. So a couple days ago, I had to like meticulously unwind it all, and we're back with the second back. So basically how I calculated the back the correct way is I cast it on the total number of the starting for the bottom of my panels. So I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to go back to figure out what that was, but I want to say it was somewhere around like 40s-ish is what I cast it on. So what I would do is add up the original cast on for both. So let's say that's like 80 something. Plus, if you do a gauge swatch, you're gonna want to see like what your gauge is to how many inches, like how many stitches will get you up to about a 4-inch panel. I think for me that was around like 21 to 24 stitches. So you're going to take these combined and then add in however much you want your neck hole to be. So I just put like about 4 or 5 inches, so I did about 24 extra stitches. So that would put us at around 100 and something, just as like an example. So that's what I did, because I'm keeping the decreases the same for the back panel. So yeah, I think hopefully we should be fine. That's where I'm at right now, and I will come back to confirm that I did it correct for you guys. Okay guys, I am back with all of my panels sewn together and one sleeve done. So the way I did my sleeve was I casted on all my stitches onto the armhole, and I used German short rows. So I basically went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all the way down, and then I kind of did some straight rows. And if you guys want to do them that way, I will definitely show you. My advice, if you don't want to do all that work, you honestly do not have to shape any of this. You can just make a straight front panel and a straight back panel, just like rectangles, and you don't have to worry about all the weird shaping, decreasing mess. But if you do want to do it that way and chose to do it the way I did, I'm going to show you how to do it. So the first thing I did was measure around my bicep, just with a tape measure. I got about 12 inches, so I rounded up to 13 just for like a loose, you know, I didn't want it like a big armhole and then super tight fitting weirdness. So I went for about 13 inches. So for me, I've mentioned before that my gauge was about 21 stitches, gives me about 4 inches. So if I want 13 inches, I need 4 3 times plus a little extra give in there. So I think with some multiplication and whatnot, I got that I would need about 69 stitches to give me a decent armhole. So the thing about working in the round with this pattern is that I don't really know how to do it. I just kind of had to create my own way, and whether that way is correct and the easiest way, I couldn't tell you. It's just kind of what I ended up doing, and it looks good enough for me. So the original pattern is that you need, I think it's like a base of like 3, so like 3, 6, 9 plus 2 selvage stitches plus 1. I don't know what that plus 1 is, but basically what I did was multiple of 3, no selvage stitches, and I still did the plus 1 because I don't know. So 69 obviously is already my multiple of 3, so I just did plus 1, so I casted on 70 stitches. The easiest thing for me to do is that you can see right here I have a little marker. I put a marker up top and a marker up bottom, down bottom, and I just casted on 35 and 35. And I just tried to do that as evenly dispersed as I could. So So that's what I did. And for the first row, I'm just going to be doing the base pattern. Now it is a little weird because when you're working in the round, obviously you're not turning your work and going back the other way. You're continuously working in a circle. So we're gonna kind of have to switch the pattern a little bit. And honestly, it's not that hard at all, I promise you, for the first base row. But once we start doing the German short rows, we will be going back and forth in like a front side, wrong side. So I am going to place my stitch markers and I'm going to cast on 70, and then I will show you guys how I knit in the round with the German short rows. And if you're just doing a straight panel with no armhole shaping at all, you can still knit in the round if you feel like that would be more convenient for you. I would just cast on the number of stitches you want like your armhole to be, and just continue working it in the round the whole way because it will be even. You don't need the German short rows. So you can still watch to see what I do if that will be helpful for you. Okay, so what we need to do now is just join this in the round. So what I'm going to do is just slip this one off real quick and just kind of hold it down there. I'm going to transfer this one over here and pick this one up over here. So now we've kind of crossed them and we'll be knitting circularly now. So I'm going to put my stitch marker back on, and since it's the first round, we're just going to knit all the way around. And it is a little annoying at first because the tension is kind of weird, but you get used to it. And so yeah, I'm just going to knit normally all the way around until I get back to my blue marker, and that'll be our first row. Okay, I am back to the beginning. So usually on our second row we would purl, but because we're knitting in the round, we can just knit one whole other row again, and that will be our first two starting rows. So just knit all the way around one more time. Okay, now we're on our third row, which brings us back to the right side of our pattern. So we're just going to do this one like regular. What I'm going to do is I'm still going to do the knit one and then slip, knit one, slip over like the original pattern, because I honestly can't remember what I did on my other sleeve. So I'm just going to do it like this. That way we at least have one stitch still next to our stitch marker. And now that I've done that, just like the beginning, we do our 2 yarn overs. We slip these next 2 stitches, knit this stitch, and bring this one over. So it's just like how we did the rest of the pattern, and we'll do that all the way around, and I'll get back on here when I'm close to the end. So mine worked out to where I just did my last yarn over, pull over my 2 stitches, knit one, pull them over, and I only have 1 stitch left in front of my stitch marker. So I'm just going to knit that. So if you are wanting to continue knitting in the round, you don't have a shaped armhole, just keep repeating this. We do have 1 more row left, but just to let you guys know, this was kind of the weirdest round because it had this weird start to it, but yeah, so if you're going to be knitting just in the round the whole time, just repeat these 4 rows. So last row is what we would be on the wrong side. So usually we would do purl, 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 knit, but since we're on the right side only this time, we're going to knit, 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 then purl this stitch. So now that we've done the first couple stitches, it's going to just be knit 2, purl 1 all the way around. So knit, knit, and purl. So it's just kind of the opposite of what we were doing since we are staying on the right side this time. So we're just going to keep doing knit, knit, purl all the way around back to the first marker, and that would be our 4th round. So that's it. Those are the only 4 rows if you're going to be knitting in the round the whole time if you don't have a shaped armhole. If you do have a shaped armhole like me, I will meet you back here at our stitch marker to show you the next steps. Okay, I've made it back around to my stitch marker. It fell out, but it's fine. So what I'm going to do now is separate the top into its own little section. So on my other sleeve, what I did, just kind of randomly, I chose an even amount to do on both sides. So I'm just gonna say that this right here is the middle. I'm going to choose 4 holes on each side. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I'm going to do, let's just turn it this way, it's easier. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to put your little stitch marker, oops, I don't need to close it yet, right behind, here's our post. We're going to keep this first one right behind it, and this is where we'll do our turning. So post plus 1. And we're gonna do the same on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's our post and plus 1. Put that right there. Now, if you are making a bigger size and maybe you have a bigger armhole, you might want to choose more stitches. 4 just seemed like an appropriate number for me. On both sides, it's kind of like the top third, maybe I'd say, or, you know, so if you want to do less, you can. This is really just what worked out for me for my sleeve. So now that we have that, oh, my stitch marker. What we're gonna do is start back over, right? So we're going to knit only to this stitch marker. Then we'll turn around, which I'll show you how to do, and we'll knit back only to this stitch marker. And once we get here, we'll turn around, and this is where we start working our pattern, just kind of in between here. And each time we complete the 4 rows, we will add another little hole. So we'll add this one and move our stitch marker over to here. Then work another 4, go farther out on both sides. So what we're doing is we're slowly building up the shoulder as we're working down, so it creates that even line, I guess. Since we have a shaped shoulder, we need more up here to create an even sleeve. So that's what we're doing. So for now, we are just going to knit to our second marker. Up here, I have connected my stitch marker back to the shoulder because we don't really need it in the middle anymore, but I do leave it up. Okay, so I have knit to my stitch marker. So now we're going to turn our work. Oof, oof, oof. Okay. And now we have our yarn on the inside. That's where we want it to be. We are going to slip this stitch purlwise over to this needle. We're going to take our yarn, just flip it over the front. So now it kind of looks like we have two separate strands, and that's okay. That's how you want it to look. That's fine. And you can just pull it a little bit to keep that tension. And now to purl back, we'll just pull that yarn back in front with us, even though it's technically the back. And we'll just purl back to our first stitch marker over here, not all the way down to the bottom, just to our stitch marker number 1. This, I will call this one number 1 and this one's number 2. That's how I do it, at least. So we're just going to purl until this first stitch in front of our stitch marker. Okay, I have purled to my stitch marker. So again, we're just going to turn our work, and we're going to bring our yarn, oh Lord, to the front of our needles. And we are going to slip this over here. So we're going to go in front of it purlwise. So not underneath like you're gonna knit it. We are going to slip this one purlwise as well. So right in the front, pull it over, and you'll kind of see those two stitches again. I like to keep this one kind of loose because we're about to start our yarn over row. So what I do is I leave this one here, and we slip this one, knit this one, and we want to try and slip both of these over this one. This is the only kind of irritating part, I would say, because this turning stitch can get kind of tight and funky. So I'm just going to, oh Lord. It's not very fun. Okay, I'm sorry, I had to do that off camera because I had to get up close and personal with it. But hopefully you guys knew what I meant. I just did basically like the start of the round. I slipped that starting turn over, right? Over here, and I flipped the yarn over. I slipped the second stitch, then I knit the stitch that was over here, and then I took the both of them, the first regular slipped stitch and our kind of weird turning stitch, and I slipped them both over, and it looks like this. It doesn't look perfect, it looks a little funky, but when you start working it up, it's really hard to notice anything. So now we're just going to keep doing our yarn over row like normal. So do our yarn over, pull these two over, knit, and pull them over. So we're just going to keep doing that like normal all the way to our second stitch. So I have my 2 yarn overs right here on my needle. Then I have my 2 slipped stitches. So we're at this funky little weird part where we turned. So to do this, you just want to knit the whole thing. You see I'm underneath both of the 2 stitches. You can just knit the whole thing. And it comes up looking pretty regular. It doesn't look too weird. And I'll do my final pull over and pull this up a little bit. Okay, and now that we've done that, we are also going to pull up another stitch over here. It doesn't have to be like too terribly exact. Just find a strand in here. It's kind of twisted and weird. That's okay. And pull it up. And then we're going to knit into that, because we need to replace, for when we come back over this way, we still need our 2 stitches in the middle over here. So we need to replace that. So now we'll turn our work again. And we do it the same exact way we did last time. Oof. So we can pull this a little tighter, and we go in here purlwise, just slip it over and pull our yarn over the top. And now we can do our way back. We're going to do purl, purl, knit, just like we regularly would. So purl, purl, knit. And we're going to do that all the way to our first marker. Okay, now we are back at our first marker. We are going to purl it. And we're going to pull up another stitch on this side as well. Again, it doesn't have to be anything crazy or specific. Just pull up any string you can get, and I'm going to purl this. And now we can turn our work again. And this is where we're going to start our next kind of round. So we're going to knit all the way across to our second stitch marker. Okay, so we're back at our weird stitch. So again, we're just gonna get up underneath there and knit it. Then we're going to set this down for a second. We're going to knit 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to put our stitch marker back down. So we just added 3 stitches, and now you can see over here we have 2 rows of our little holes, but this one only has 1. So you can see how we're building up over here. It's getting taller over here while it's still shorter over here. So that's gonna create the curve at the top of our shoulder so that our sleeve will be even as we go down. So now we'll just do our turn again. So flip to the back. We're going to slip purlwise. Put that over here. Then we'll bring it back around so that we can purl back. And we're going to do the same thing over there. We're going to purl to our first stitch marker, and then we're going to purl 3 stitches past it so that we can go to our next little hole segment. And then that will be, so we're back at our little weird stitch. We'll just go up underneath all of it, purl it, leave that right there, and purl 3. Now we'll put our stitch marker back on and turn. And now we just start over again. So that was our 2 knit rows. So now what we're going to do is we'll pull this over and we'll start our yarn over row again. So we just kind of keep repeating this process over and over again. Basically every time you're on the first knit row, so row 1, you're going to be knitting it this way towards marker number 2, and you'll take 3 additional stitches every time. So every time we're, you know, adding a little by little until we make it back down to our original stitch marker. So what will happen is, if I remember correctly, we'll finish on this side first, and then we'll go around this way and meet back in the middle. Then we'll do one last change so that we're back to knitting on the right side out here, and we'll keep it going around and around. But I will come back to show you guys how to do that. Until then, you'll just keep repeating the steps that we took to do that first row. So I hope that you guys understood that, and definitely feel free to keep watching it as many times as you need to, because we're back at the beginning now where we did the first knit all the way over here, purl back all the way over here. So if you guys need to rewatch that again, definitely go do that. But we're just going to be repeating that until you meet back down at your armpit stitch marker. So basically what I'll do from here, I'm going to do our regular turnaround for the short row, purl all the way back. When I get to my marker, I'll purl my 3, do one last turnaround so that I'm working on the right side, and I will just be working in the round. So now here is where you guys can kind of go off and do however many rows you want to get your sleeve the length that you want. You can make it long sleeve, you can end it short sleeve. I think I will just do maybe like 3 or 4 more regular rows, and then I will start doing the ribbing. So I purled all the way back around to my middle stitch marker. So what I'm gonna do is just do one last little transfer over here to just kind of turn it back around and connect it in the middle. It'll look a little funny. My other armpit does have like kind of a gappy hole weird type thing going on. But if you don't like that, you can go in later and kind of stitch it up. And so now we'll just be working in the round like how we did for the first 4 rounds. So yeah, and you guys can just keep going as long as you want and make it however long you want. Whenever I stop, I end on the 2 knit rows, and then from there I just start making my edge how I want it to look. You can do a bunch of knit rounds. I personally, on my other sleeve, just did knit purl, knit purl. You want it to be an odd number, so whenever you get to the point where you're ready to start making your ribbing or whatever you'd like it to look like, if you're doing ribbing, you might need to either subtract a stitch or add a stitch. I personally added a stitch, but you can do it either way you want. It just helps to be an odd number so that it's kind of seamless all the way around. But okay everyone, I think we have reached the end of the video, and I'm just gonna give like a little overview reaction. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Just going from like an inspo pic on Pinterest, I think I did a really good job putting this all together. I feel like it looks pretty much exactly how I imagined it to. I'm really happy with my ingenuity. It was a real, I don't want to say challenge, but it was fun learning how to make the sleeves, because I kind of had to use my own methods to figure out how to work this pattern in the round. I know it's still, you know, a little messy, like, I don't know if you can see like the scraggly holes underneath the armpits, but for something handmade, I don't care about that. Nobody's gonna see it. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I hope that you guys enjoyed the process. I have a feeling that this was probably a longer video. So if you stuck around, if you watched the whole thing, if you made a top like this, thank you for watching. Thank you for taking inspiration. I know that I didn't show any of my ribbing, but it was just really simple. I just picked up stitches as I went along. I didn't count or anything like that, and I just did knit, purl, but you can choose to make your edging or ribbing whichever way, however you want it to look. It can be completely knit, it can be knit, purl, but yeah, so I'm really happy I was finally able to get this out and finish this project so that I can move on to some new stuff. I know summer is kind of it's not over, but it's almost back to school season, so I'm excited to start some new projects. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!